All right, everyone. Welcome to our last week before we are on Thanksgiving break. And now I know a lot of you are cheering, but I still want you to do well. So I still want you to focus on this week. Make sure you end this week well. Don't end this sloppily and then all of a sudden things are building up once you get back from Thanksgiving break, okay? Now, when last we left Europe, guess what? We had actually not two things. We focused on the end of World War II. Now, a lot of middle school students kind of forget, wait a second, once World War II ended, then what happened? So a lot of students kind of just think, well, hey, World War II ended, everyone kind of shook hands, they got back together, and hey, Europe is what it is today. But that's not what happened. There are two things that we're going to focus on. Now, there's more than two things that came out of World War II, but we're going to focus on two things. Number one, the Cold War. The Cold War came out of World War II. And of course, we need to ask ourselves, okay, well, what is the Cold War? Why is it cold? Does it have anything to do with temperature? So the Cold War is the first thing that came out of World War II. And the second thing that we're going to focus on, the European Union. Now, if you haven't heard of the European Union or you haven't heard of the EU, well, you need to because they're very important. And the European Union is still around today. It's controversial. There's a lot of debate about it. But we need to understand why the European Union was created and what the controversies are today, okay? So, Cold War, European Union. Now we're going to focus probably today on the Cold War. I should say probably. We are going to focus on the Cold War today. But if you're going to understand the Cold War, you first need to understand Joseph Stalin. Now, we've already covered the Soviet Union with Vladimir Lenin, the first dictator of the Soviet Union. And we understand what happened when Lenin was in power. We understand communism. But we have to understand Stalin because Stalin is going to be Vladimir Lenin times 10. And no, that is not a Dragon Ball Z reference either for those who watch that. Okay, so with Joseph Stalin, you see this document here? I have linked this document on the module that you're on today. Read through this document. Okay, you absolutely need to read through this document. You need to understand Joseph Stalin. It's only 2 pages. The first page is on Joseph Stalin's rise to power and how he ruled the Soviet Union. The second page is what happened to the people of Ukraine under the rule of Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union. Now, you know Ukraine's a country today, but back at this point in time, Ukraine is just a territory that's controlled by the Soviet Union. What happened to the Ukrainian peasants during that time? So that's going to be very important for you to understand that, or you're not going to be able to understand the Cold War and why the Allies, why the United States and its allies were so desperate to stop the Soviet Union from spreading and stop its beliefs in communism from spreading, okay? So when you're reading this document, you have 5 questions that you need to answer for me. And obviously, you can stop this video and go back if you missed a question, but they all deal with this document. So even if you don't know how to spell a word that I might say, if you're reading this document, you'll find the word. Okay, so number 1, what is a peasant? So what is a peasant? Don't assume you know the answer. Look it up. Make sure you actually know the answer. What is a peasant? Number 2, what is collectivization? So what is collectivization? Number 3, what is the cult of personality? So when someone says cult of personality, what is the cult of personality? What does that mean when someone says cult of personality? All right? So number 1, what is a peasant? Number 2, what is collectivization? Number 3, what is the cult of personality? Number 4, sorry if you hear some buzzing above, something's wrong with our bell system right now. All right, so number 4, how many Ukrainians died in the Ukrainian famine of 1932 through 1933? All right, so how many peasants died in the Ukrainian famine of 1932 through 1933? 5th and final question that you need to answer and submit to me. What is a famine? Right? So what is a peasant? So what does peasant mean? what does, you almost forgot his second part. So, what is a peasant? What is collectivization? What is the cult of personality? How many Ukrainians died in the famine of 1932 through 1933? And what is a famine? Use this document to answer them. If you can't answer some of these questions with the document, then you are free to do a little bit of research outside of the document. But make sure you submit those answers to me, okay? As usual, I'm on conference. If you have any questions, jump on conference or email me, okay? Take care, guys.